Welcome to this Access Data webinar on FTK4. FTK4 will bring with it many new features and enhancements. Some of these, the PostgreSQL database, the enhanced data and file support, single node enterprise agent, Cerberus malware analysis, and visualization advanced analytics. In this video, we'll discuss one of these, the single node enterprise agent. My name is Nick Drahill, and I'm Manager of Curriculum Development in the Training Division at Access Data. In FTK3, the technology exists to acquire evidence from a remote system. We can image the drive remotely. We can acquire the RAM. We can mount the system. The examiner, however, was limited by the use of a temporary agent. If the remote system was shut down or the agent timed out, the examiner would have to push the agent again in order to continue the acquisition and analysis. That same temporary agent still exists in FTK4, but the examiner now has the ability to utilize a permanent single node enterprise agent. By using this new agent, we will see an enhanced functionality of acquiring remote evidence. The single node enterprise agent will allow the examiner to remotely and discreetly access and analyze volatile data, which includes the process information, services information, open handles, the registry information, and many more. We can obtain a dump of the active RAM memory off of the remote system, and we can also conduct a search of that memory. We can preview and/or image physical drives, logical volumes, and also mount the remote system drives on our analyst machines. Requirements before you can use the enterprise agent: number one, the enterprise agent has to be on that remote system. The examiner must be able to have access to an administrative user account on that remote system. We have to ensure that the system date and time is synchronized. The remote system cannot be more than 24 hours behind our analyst machine. And if firewalls exist within the organization, these firewalls need to have an exception, or the port has to be open for the agent to operate. We have enterprise agents for the Microsoft Windows operating system, the Apple operating system, for the Linux and Unix operating systems. Now, several ways we can deploy that agent. One is through FTK. We can push the agent from our machine and move it to that remote computer. For network deployment, we can use the Microsoft Active Directory, the McAfee ePolicy Orchestrator, or with any of the third-party software management utilities. And finally, through the manual installation, we can manually install the agent executable and the required public certificate key on that remote machine. One benefit of using the single node enterprise agent is having the ability to add a public and private key certificate for security. From within the program, I can enter the public and private key certificate, but if your organization does not have access to the public and private key certificate, a utility is furnished within the FTK4 installation package that will let you create your own public and private key certificates. We can then push the agent to the remote machine by entering the address to the remote machine. I can push that one-time agent there. Once on the machine, the agent will reside there until it is uninstalled. From the agent installation dialog, I can uninstall an existing agent from that remote box. If I wanted to mask our process and our services, and the service name, I can go ahead and put a common Windows service name. For the executable name, I can name it svchost.exe, and it will blend in with the other processes on the machine. I can even update the agent if it's present. We then need to enter the administrative credentials to that local machine. Once the credentials are present, we can now push the agent to the remote box. Once the agent has been successfully placed on the remote system, now we're ready to begin our analysis. Once the connection to that remote system has been established, now I can commence my examination. So I can connect to that remote machine, At this point, I can include the volatile data. I can also include the memory dump to grab the RAM. I can search the memory. I can also include the physical and logical volumes on that system. So I can do a preview or an actual acquisition of those drives. And I can even mount the drive. If we wish to perform an advanced analysis of the volatile data, I can also elect to include the hidden processes and the injected DLLs as part of my investigation. This way I can find those Trojans, those viruses, or other files that have compromised our network. Once we get that information, we can then proceed to look at those volumes. Under the select drives, I can go ahead and select either the physical drive or the logical drive, and by selecting either of those, I get the details of that physical or logical partition. At this point, I can elect to preview the information only or get a snapshot of what's on that computer. I can also elect to complete a disk image of the drive or that logical volume. Now we have a couple of choices. One is I can bring that image back to my forensic analysis computer, or if it is a remote location, say in another city or even in another country, I can elect to go ahead and say, let's keep that evidence on a remote system there so I don't have to deal with the bandwidth issue of bringing the data back. Once the image has been completed on that remote system, then I can go ahead and bring it back during off hours, not to affect the network in play. And then we can go ahead and now do our analysis of the memory and also of the drive. Once I have that snapshot of that remote system, I can now analyze it at a file structure level. I can interrogate the user's directories, including the target of my investigation, to see if files exist that could be a compromise to the system or against policies of the company. If I find files on the system that deem further investigation, I can do a couple of things here. I can go ahead now and select those files. I can then go ahead and create an AD1 image of those files, bring them back to this machine, and do a further analysis on those. Or if the evidence exists, I may even be able to go forward and seize that computer and do a full analysis on the drive. The Volatile tab provides tools for viewing, finding, and comparing data gathered from the memory of live systems on the network. From this tab, I can look at the processes currently on this machine to determine if there's something suspicious. I can go ahead and scroll to the right and see if any of these processes are marked as hidden. Also, hidden processes would show up in yellow. If I select a specific process, in the detailed information, I will see any executables or DLLs that run as part of that process. Under the sockets, I can determine any remote network connections that this computer currently has running. Once I find those network connections, I can then determine if this is a threat to the network. For the service list, I can determine all the services currently on that remote system, the user accounts on that remote system to make sure no unauthorized accounts is present, and I can even see the open handles on that machine. We also have the ability in the Volatile tab to look at the processes to determine if any are alert, ignorable, or unknown. When we have a brand new machine, we can actually go ahead and start it, grab the memory off of it, and in the processes, I can see an MD5 and a SHA-1 hash value. I can now go ahead and right-click and add hashes to the KFF and call these ignorable processes. And they are alert and activate them in the case. So if I bring in any future memory dumps or any future cases that I examine, I actually have the ability to eliminate from view all of the ignorables and concentrate strictly on either the alerts or the ones that are unknown that have not been put into the hash database. And now I can find those Trojan, those viruses, or any other processes that could be a compromise to my system. I can look under now the KFF, and now I can see those ignorable processes exist for any future investigations. We can also search our processes to see if something exists that could be suspicious. So under my Find tab, I can go ahead and create a new filter, and this one right here, I'll go ahead and call this one Spyware. And for the properties, I can say the process name equals, and let's use our agent that we used from FTK. So it's agentcore.exe. I can save that, and you see I have other processes here, so I can go and activate this process, and when I open it up, go to my process list. If that service exists on this machine, I have just identified it, including any DLLs that are also associated with that process. In the Volatile tab, we also have the ability to take snapshots over several days. By doing this, I can analyze the system to see if there is a change in the processes that may warrant an investigation. So in our Differences tab, we can open up our processes, and you can see here I took a snapshot from 2 different days. I can go ahead and look at the first snapshot, and then by selecting the first and then selecting the second, I now get a color change. All of the processes that are in white are considered the processes that were the same over both days. Any processes that are in green are different on the first snapshot as compared to the second, and in the red are all the processes that are different from the second day snapshot as compared to the first day. So I can examine those and see if a process, what the process changes are. I can also determine, is it a threat to the network? So for incident response, this is a great tool, especially if you're looking at the servers in your network. You can take a snapshot today, and then a week from now, take a secondary snapshot, compare the two, and see if there's any processes that are running that warrants your attention. I want to thank you for watching this webinar. I hope you found that it was informative. If you need additional information in regards to the FTK, the Single Node Enterprise Agent, or any of our other products, you can contact us at our sales@accessdata.com, or visit us on the web at www.accessdata.com. Again, thank you for watching.